Hey
everybody, welcome back to Spin Rack. We are here with PD and Kyle. What's rocking, guys?
Yeah. Rock.
So we're talking about comic book hero. Kyle, give us a heads up. Comic book hero. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, the big question I've been answering recently is, have the fundamentals of the comic book market changed forever? Are these prices that we're seeing forever? Is it going to be a dip? Is the bottom going to just drop out and guys are going to get their, their quarter books back? Or are those days done forever?
I think the fundamentals are strong. What say ye?
Well, see, I would love to, really give everybody like the soft, the soft landing and say I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty certain those days are done.
Wow. Why?
Yeah, okay. Take a book like, I'm just taking a book that I was working with the other day. This is going to be G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero 48. If you bought that book when it first came out, it was 75 cents. And the big, the guide, Overstreet's guide, how Overstreet would work is that if a book was a key book or a golden age book, it then would they would allow it to appreciate 10% every year, 10% every year going forward. Okay, that's what you can expect. So there was some appreciation at the end of the day. So that book came out 35 years ago. So if it went by the averages that Overstreet put on the book, that book should be worth, or you should be getting about $20 for that book today, as it falls into that category. However, that book normally goes for anywhere between $5 and $10. So I looked at that, and then I looked at what comic books cost right now, and then I just said, this is a market right here that is uniquely undervalued. It just is. You've got a market that has beat inflation for over 35 years. If you just went by inflation numbers, okay, and what comic books should be with inflation, it's beat inflation for 35 years. But you still have the average guy, moaning about, oh, it's a $3 book, it's a $4 book, that sort of stuff. But then I was looking and I said, well, because it's pretty much undervalued, it allows other guys to come in from other markets or from other collectibles markets and say, well, look, in comparison to what I'm paying for a card or a car or a toy or something of that nature, this stuff is cheap, right? And then you have guys who are just collectors, guys who want, high-powered books or high-powered things, and they want to have a copy of Moby Dick, okay? They want to have this rare Hot Wheels toy, and then above it, hanging on the wall, they want a copy of New Mutants 98 first appearance of Deadpool to show how strong their collection is. So it will, if something's undervalued, it will attract other guys in there, and when that happens, it really does change those particular fundamentals. I can't say when exactly it happened, but at some point, guys looked and said, wait a second, I'm spending $2,000-$3,000 on a card. I could take $2,000-$3,000 and buy 20 key issues accordingly in the comic book market. I'll put the money in there, and that does change things. So yeah, I'm sorry to say, yeah, I think those days are pretty much done.
Mars?
I think he's still doing his research. You can see the light on the glasses.
He said that the market is those days are over. That's what he said. What do you have to say to that?
I heard what he said, but I missed some of the stuff. If you've been reading you can see what I'm talking about. So look, here's the thing. I
wasn't reading anything. I'm doing the show.
I think that that you're looking at the wrong way. I think that I see you do have points on what you're making.
You were the one that got frozen. So restart what you're doing. Hey.
Yeah.
Stop. Okay, start over that point because you froze.
I've been saying this. The audio is totally, but I'll say it again. The point I'm trying to make is that if the movie for G.I. Joe had done better, I believe the market for the G.I. Joe stuff would have been higher. You know, you're right. In terms of inflation, according to Overstreet, it should be worth more money. But right now, it's going for $5. The average comic, it's not basically the cost of a regular comic right now. So I can see your point there. But you know, the more high grade versions, and I think, and you've pointed this out to me in the past, are what really matters more often than not. 9.8 is going for on eBay right now. You know, they have one going for 110 and another one for 277, but at the same time, you also have non-graded versions going for like $13 and $20. So there is
you're talking about GI Joe, a Real American Hero 48.
Yeah, 48.
Yeah, but that's my point. Okay, even if you went by Overstreet's numbers, which is just 10% every year over 35 years, it's a $20 book, and you still aren't getting those numbers. That's undervalued.
No.
They're saying that the value of this book should be 20, and and guys are shelling out between 5 and 10. That's undervalued.
No investment goes the stock market. No one says you're going to get 10% every year. If you're able to do that, bro, you're a guru. And the street is pretending to do that. So it's not a legitimate. Oh, they said 10%. Nothing works like that. You know, the reality is just that in terms of the market of GI Joe, comics, and then the people who are watching the movies and TV shows, it hasn't been that big. If you would flip it around and say the same thing for someone like Deadpool, if it came out at the same time, and that market, because of the movies that has come out, the T-shirts that are sold, it'd be a different story. So I think you're looking at it kind of wrong. That 10% by Overstreet is, you got to throw that out, because no investment works like that. That's what.
No, that's just a baseline. In some point, I mean, if you went by Incredible Hulk 181, okay, there's no way that book should be worth as much. But that book is worth thousands of dollars in comparison to a book that can't get to $10 at the end of the day. So there's no Overstreet was using that as just a baseline to say, look, a key book or a golden age book, we should expect 10% minimum over the course of this particular time. May go more, but we should expect a 10% minimum. Overstreet also says that no book in Overstreet is valued at less than $3. But the sellers will put it in a dollar bin, or $50 50-cent bin, or a quarter bin. But they're just trying to get rid of the overstock. They're just trying to get rid of this stock at the end of the day.
Right, and then see that gives you your numbers. I look at this in terms of like stocks, investments, crypto, gold, and when you have an investment that you say, hey, you're going to get 10% every year overall, you got to say, wait a second, this is definitely not legit. In fact, if you started selling something this in the SEC and say, hey, this stock is going to go 10% every single year, they're going to call the cops on you and say, yo, how is he doing this year after year? You're going to turn into a Madoff if you can do something like that, you know. Now, but what I'm trying to say though is that this is an investment. This is what you're looking to in terms of investment, in terms of, like, there's a fandom, and the fandom for the Hulk is a much bigger fandom, and the fandom that's more active. You're not, the fandom for the GI Joe is not the same, and you're going to see that in different levels. Like, we just had a whole discussion about the Spider-Man page that sold for 3.3 million, and it's 10 times what I think it was a GI Joe page sold, and that's because the fandom of Spider-Man is larger. You know, more people read that, watch that, see it. You know, and so I think there's a difference when you have to look at the investments, especially when you talk about fandoms being. You're going to have a great example. The Mick Jagger stuff is always going to go more than the Peter Cetera stuff, right? Simply because
but that's a different, that's a different market.
No, in terms of investment, I'm just saying. If you're like, oh, I'm going to get the stuff, it's not going to be the same thing. Different fans.
Well, no, but the Peter Cetera stuff, okay, could be more valued than Mick Jagger stuff if it's harder to find.
That's one way to look at it, yes, but you also have to have the fandom. If it could be harder. The fandom is not as big as the Rolling Stones fandom. It's not going to hold that much compared to others, you know. So,
all right, but I'm not talking about. See, if I was just talking, this is something that I've discussed before with the comic book market. That the comic book market for well over 2 decades was driven by comic collectors solely. These guys decided what the key books were, what they were willing to pay for it, what was trash. They decided all of that. Okay, what I'm saying is that now you have guys who have come into that market saying, hey, look at these numbers. Okay, look at these numbers. They're listening to what these other guys are saying. These are the key books. And they're looking at a book like Detective Comics 359, first appearance of Batgirl, and they're looking at it like, well, this is a key book. How much is it? Oh, well, near-mint copy is going to cost you $300. They're like, well, that sounds pretty damn good to me. if I had to go buy like a card, if I'm going to go buy like, just a Hank Aaron, a card with Hank Aaron and Mickey Mantle on it, I'm going to spend $300 just for that in mid grade condition. And this is supposed to be top grade. Okay, I'll buy this, and I'll sit on this for X amount of time, and then I'll sell that. So overall, that's where I was. That's what I'm saying in terms of it being, being undervalued. The the fact that you get a book like that where $20 seems to be a struggle for a book that is sought after on a regular basis by the collectors of this particular book, and it still struggles to get there, is one, on the part of the collectors, and two, on the part of the guys selling it, where they have decided that these guys, it's going to be a buyer's market, and they're just trying to drive towards them. You get other guys in there who are willing to buy and pay more money for it. Okay, it does change that particular dynamic. Now, it's not widespread. Okay, it's not like a whole bunch of guys said, well, we're going to do this with everything, but it has broadened out a lot. It has broadened out a lot more and driven up prices on books that guys never thought would go up. Second printings, second appearances, those type of things. Even reprints went up in price strictly because the numbers started going up on what comic book guys decided were going to be the books of value, those key issues. And then once those got out of reach, the guys started going into the other one, and the prices went up there as well.
Hey, I hear it. Petey, you got anything to say about that? Tread lightly. Tread lightly.
Of course. In my mind, the hard part of it is some of the business, which would be online. So that's where you get your most stuff outside of eBay, and going to a comic store online. I just feel like it's beyond that. It's even beyond that, because some good spots like Comic Shop News, even though they got some things that are pretty high, and the same with Nucadia, but Mile High, like they have stuff that's beyond anything. It's just because it feels like it's just a warehouse business, right? Because here we go, right? We got the Hidden Years, near mint, $40, right?
For one issue?
For one issue, right? And the same for X-Men #1, $40. And this not excluding, as you would say, the newsstand editions of these things, which are more for some reason. Remember when the newsstand was like toy? Now the newsstands have a higher value, since a lot of these things in the comic stores were overbought. They bought a higher number of them, so there are less of these. But I don't know why that's the same deal for the Hidden Years. That makes no sense to me. But then you go to New Cadia, and it's like not crazy. Like this is like $5. That's fine for #1 issue. But that's the thing. It's like a warehouse business, and you're sitting around saying, "Hey, these things aren't going anywhere. I got my day job. I'm just gonna put whatever price I want on these things." And some person who likes these books. I'm saying I haven't necessarily. Sorry.
No. Go back to what you said. Because that's what I got to deal with both. I got to deal with both collectors and dealers who have that same mentality that if they're getting a price that they don't believe they should be getting, guy must have been a sucker who actually paid for this. And along that, and that's the mentality that I've had to contend with. I had to contend with that for years until other guys started getting the same price. Then all of a sudden, the same thing. It changes from the guys being suckers to, oh, this is crazy, or it's COVID money. And I kept telling them, you got different people looking at this stuff. Now. But amongst comic collectors, it's tough, because I can see these guys, and I do feel for them, where they don't want it to change. It's been their way for a very long time, and they don't want it to change. I get that, but I always felt, look, this is healthy for your market at the end of the day with these particular things. And it's tough. You got books. I look at that book and I see $40, and I'm like, oh wow, that type of stuff over there is wild. And I don't know if they're really matching it against anything, or they're just literally throwing up a number like, what, $40, when it sells, don't care. But just looking at the pulse of it, and just going, not even going to bedrock, just going a little bit below surface level, you can see, oh, okay, this is why this has been going this particular way, and this is why it's changing. The thing I always tell these guys is like, look, if you want this stuff, When this stuff was $10, you didn't care about it. You didn't want it. You didn't want it. Now it's $50. Oh, that's ridiculous. Those prices are terrible. This, that, and the other. You'd have to be less than crazy to go after that. Or more than stupid. To go after the whole thing. It's like, so, there's no. It's just extremes. It's just extremes. I see with a lot of comic guys on both ends. But what happens, in reality, okay, what happens right there is the stuff is going up. It's going up in price. It's being bought, and if you actually did want it, it gets to the point where it's out of reach because it's not being. A lot of the stuff is not being bought by comic guys. It's being bought by guys who actually know what the hell they're doing.
But I think that you got like I was saying with the whole thing, and that's a good point you made. It's like, but you also have the fact that again, I go back to the fandom. So right now, the market for Black Adam isn't huge, right? But I guarantee you, after that movie pops, the numbers that he's going to have on his comics are going to jump up, right? There may be even additional IP that comes out based on that Black Adam movie. There probably will be T-shirts coming out, so that helps to build and develop that. So they're very successful, and they have a second movie or whatever, or tying with Shazam. You're going to see a whole different level of stuff, and therefore that market is going to explode in terms of what's actually out there, and all the other stuff that was there that was done previously is going to be scarce, even from the first appearance to his reimagining, right? So I mean, it's natural, but then you're going to have other existing properties that are going to still be stuck at the $10.
I'm glad you brought up Black Adam because I can give you the numbers.
I'm looking at some of the numbers now. Yeah.
Oh no, that's the numbers now. Okay, take a look at a book like what was it, Justice Society of America. What is the issue, like 24, 25? It's an Alex Ross cover. That's a dollar book. Okay, that was a dollar book for years. Nobody, and it was a great cover. This is the stuff that should be attracting collectors. It's a great cover, great art. Okay, without a doubt, and it's Alex Ross. Respected artist amongst comics. Dollar book at that. Could have probably fished in the 50 cent or the 25 cent bin at that at the end of the day. Now I can only speak for myself to what I'm selling, but it is exponentially different, okay, than it once was, as opposed to what people are getting for higher grade copies at the end of the day. That's now. They haven't even made a movie, that's now at the end of the day. And that's not a key issue, like his first appearance or something, or his first modern appearance. That's just a great cover. Or if you look at the Black Adam #1, his first solo series, what is Black Adam: The Dark Age, and there's a variant cover, Alex Ross cover. The last time I sold that book, I sold it for $100, and that was about 3 years ago. I don't know what it's selling for. I don't know what it's selling for right now. It might be the same, might be a bit lower, but the buy-in for that book years ago, it was a $10 book.
$275 on they're offering. Someone's offering for $275 on eBay.
Yeah, so the biggest thing with comics that I've seen and have never made a lot of sense to me is that they don't seem to appreciate with any value until there's a movie, or i.e. other people show some interest in it. Then out of nowhere, there's a mad dash and a rush to get this stuff at the end of the day. And it was there, it was there all the time. It wasn't being hidden. It wasn't like, guys are, keeping it out of view. They were trying hard to sell this stuff. And then it goes up, for public consumption, even before public consumption. They hear they're going to be making a movie out of it, all the cheap copies are gone. You get a casting, price goes up. You get a trailer, price goes up. Movie's a hit, price goes up, price is fixed. It's just insane the way that it works with the comic book stuff. But since you got fundamentals that are actually stronger and more durable than anything that I've seen before, yeah, you've got a situation where a lot of that stuff is not necessarily going to be there for you. Yeah, you'll be able to get books like All-Star Squadron until somebody decides to pay attention to it. But the challenging thing for me is trying to really understand why the people who are part of the market have such a low opinion of the stuff that they buy.
Wait, before you jump in here, this is the thing. This is like, I bought from Mile High Comics a few times, and they were able to give you, like, you couldn't get the mint one, you could get fine if you want to get these issues. Like, as of right now, it's like, there's no other way to say it. These are inflated prices. This is bad, right? 2001, $175. Like, look at that.
What is that the first issue, or is that
That's the first issue. Very fine.
is that the first issue, or is that the Kirby trade? I couldn't the Kirby Treasury.
No, it's the first issue of the comic book.
Oh, there you go.
So here we go. There we go. 18. 113.
Are you kidding me?
It's like his daughter, the guy who owns it, though. His daughter's now doing it, and it's like, oh, 90 for the newsstand edition. It's like Alf. Here we go. There's a new Alf show. No, there's not. $94. Like, come on. Like,
That's
this
wild.
is
As
your-
it's sold, that's the question you gotta ask. Has there been a sell? You know,
what? Alpha Flight. This is good for Mars. 132. Look at that. Number one.
How much is it for number one?
$132. Near
What-
mint
what's the
would be
condition?
almost 200.
What's the condition?
That's in very fine condition.
Oh wow. All right, well,
This-
I see the game. I see the game they're playing. I can't argue with them.
And
well,
I'm
on eBay and they have a 9.8 going for 275. That's what they claim.
for what? Alpha Flight or Alf?
Alf, and yet you have tons of other Alf going for 150 an issue.
Let's go for Alf. Let me see if I can get Alf on the. Because I got some Heathcliffs here too.
You can get a whole lot of Alf. I think there were only 4 comics made, and they're going for $10.
Oh my gosh.
But then you have a CGC
Don't
391.
do with those damn CGC things.
So I don't know. It's kind of wild, bro.
You want to go here? Let's go for the new stuff they got. They just got some stuff in, new stock in, right? I looked at this stuff, Marvel Star Comics, right? Fraggle Rock number 1, 113.
Those are all
Oh
the-
wow. No, wait. Okay, so you can see the pattern with Mile High Comics. These guys are not doing any diligence. These guys are just, we're gonna put it up at a high number. Okay, we're putting it up because they have too much stuff to actually look at the barometer for what this thing is selling for. So they're just gonna put it up at a high number, and if it sells, great. If it doesn't, they'll lower their price at a certain particular time, because you're seeing everything very fine is $113.
That's the thing. It's like it's warehouse comics, because it's like it's someone sitting around waiting for somebody saying, you know what, I want to get my daughter some Heathcliff comic books. I remember Mile High. Wow, that thing is really rare. I'll buy Heathcliff's the first issue.
Well,
First
you
spectacular.
Could you make them sound a little bit more stupid? Just a little bit more.
Oh, who else is gonna buy these things? Bongo Comics. I got a few of these. Oh my gosh. This
What
is
comic is
like
that?
$80. Well, near mint though. I gotta give it to him. Near mint on this one.
Well, Mile High, okay, Mile High is one example, and then you're going to New Cadia. I don't buy from Mile High or from New Cadia. There might be, I do my shopping elsewhere at the end of the day for when it comes to those type of things. But Mile High is a machine. They can put up the prices and they're making money. So it doesn't matter for those particular things. So I mean, it's lazy, okay, what they're doing at the end of the day, but it's also pretty obvious what they're doing, and they should not be an example of what sales are like right now. If only to say that, hey, prices have definitely gone up, and these guys are just raising them, and without any regard for where they may actually be at. They're just like, hey, they just got a universal price guide. It's like, have you ever seen their grading? How they grade it? Because they have like even a grading sheet on how they grade a book. I was like, oh, good grief! I would, that's wild if that's what it actually is. But these guys are just like, look, if it's very fine, $113. Look at go to what's another one? You ever been to My Comic Shop?
Yeah, I mean, my New Cadia and my comics are close to the same. They're not crazy, right? They have some stuff that's crazy, but like this Alpha Flight is a little beyond. But I guess
No, if I go to my comic shop, what I noticed, my comic shop is a little bit different, because my comic shop, I'll have a book, and if I can't find a price for it in terms of eBay, I will go to my comic shop, because they do a pretty good job of detail. So I go to my comic shop to see what they're asking for it. And a lot of times what I would have asked for the book, these guys are, asking that for a book that's in like 3 grades lower. Mm-hmm. So, I would always wonder, well, why did they, and I'm like, oh, okay. These guys they actually do their work. They price books sometimes to what they believe it's going to get to. So these guys, not just like this universal thing of, hey, everything this grade is going to be this particular number. They do their diligence, at least more, at least with some of the books that I've looked at, and they'll say, well, we're putting this book up for 400, but everybody else is getting 130 now. Yeah, that's right now, but we think this is going to peak at 400, and so we're putting it up for there. So playing for peak is something different than playing for the barometer of the actual market, but still changes at that. But if I'm going by mile high, then yeah, it's severely inflated, but I'm not going by mile high. I don't know if even mile high. I don't even know if mile high is going by mile high.
Yeah, it just feels like even, I mean, some of this stuff, yeah, but it's like here Lucadia is like a decent prices for the Alpha Flight. This one, when they get there, they're a
Well,
little bit higher than
what's Nucadia's price for Alpha Flight number one?
but they don't have it. They don't have it. But the first one they have is 4, which is around the same price as well, maybe it's depending on the grade. Let's see. I think 4 or 3 is the first one they have here.
What are they asking for?
They're asking for very fine, like almost $5.
Yeah, all right, that's fine.
And then we got this guy for number 4. It's like they have for very fine $6.
Yeah. Not a lot of key issues, with the exception of the first issue. I don't think there's a lot of key issues when it comes to Alpha Flight.
But it's still, like, you get they don't even have a
I'm trying to think.
and it's
I was
like,
trying to think of a key version. I was going to try to think of a key book and say, let's look at that, see what they're asking for that, as opposed to what would be considered like a filler issue, like 2 or 3.
number 1 here, there was a name, is like $105.
For what? For which issue?
Alpha Flight number 1.
At My Comic Shop.
Yeah.
What's the grade on it?
Near mint.
Wow, that's more expensive than a. Well, no, that's still cheaper than Mile High.
Well, a lot cheaper.
Mile High at a near mint copy, you're probably paying $300.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's a crime. What a crime. Oh Lord, what is this thing just came out here? I don't know what to say about these guys. Oh, these prices are regular. Thank goodness.
Whoa, what's a regular price though?
Well, that's not even. Well, this is the last. Eesh.
What's the regular price? What's the regular price? And it can't be a price I agree with. What's the regular price?
That's not actually. You wouldn't agree with that price, but here we go to a series of the last. What's this? Doom Patrol from 2001, $30 for the first issue of this. Can we see the picture? $30. I don't know. It's I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, Doom Patrol. I mean, again, I would say, would Doom
2001?
Patrol be? Would they be asking for $30 if Doom Patrol didn't have a show going into its 3rd season? Probably not.
But look at this one. You got the first issue of the ones right before we lost Mars. Before
Couldn't hang. He saw those prices. And passed out.
But just before Grant Morrison, I think it was like $14. Like, I mean, I don't think it's worth that, but I guess you can get that for the 80s.
I don't know, because I keep telling these guys this is like a book from '87. Okay, so you're looking at a book. You're looking at a book that's going on 30 years old. Oh no. You're looking at a book. Okay, this is '87. All right, so you're looking at a book. No, you might have been right the first time. This is not something you walk into a comic store and you say, hey, you got a copy of Doom Patrol, this, that, and the other. No, especially if you have to buy it online. If you got to buy it online, then yeah, you're gonna get tagged on this whole thing. Whoever's selling it, more than likely it's electronic. It's not cash. Tax, all this other type of stuff gonna come into it. It's got to get shipped to you, so they got to spend whatever money. So yeah, I would expect this to be a little bit more expensive online as opposed to if you're buying it in person. And then it's the same thing when these guys are like, I don't know, $10, $14. I'm like, this book is almost 20 years old. How much is it supposed to be? $5. Come on.
Well,
If if $14 to buy a book to complete your collection, or $14 to buy a book plus shipping is too expensive for you, then you don't really want it, and you go buy something else. That's the way I look at it. But these aren't kids. These aren't kids collecting this stuff anymore. These are grown men, usually with 9 to 5. If you're saying, well, no, this shouldn't only be worth well, then hey, these are the same guys who end up turning over their collection for like $250 after you spent all this time, building this thing up, and it's not got any value to it. Like, look, $14 isn't that big a deal. Now, my high, that's extreme. I'll agree with you that those prices are definitely inflated. For Alpha Flight, that's wild. But $14 for a book from over 20 years ago. I mean, that's along the same lines of what I was saying about GI Joe 48, which is a book that people want, but at the same point they don't want to. They want it, but they don't want to pay any money for it, which is ridiculous.
yeah, I don't know. It's just a thing of saying. I mean, that's what just feels like it's just a warehouse of books where it's just like, yeah, I'm selling my regular stuff. This is my money, and these books, if it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, I need to make my money off of this when these things actually go. But when you're throwing up stuff like Star Comics and such, and it's saying was only one of one, I haven't found a Star Comics of Heathcliff in the longest time. They might all be munched, but at the same time, what's the demand? Supply and demand means there should be a demand for it. Not it works hand in hand, but if there's no demand and you only have
On
one,
that,
you only have
I got to
one.
differ just a little bit with that, because there are a couple of Heathcliff books that retail pretty well, that are worth some money. You'd be surprised when you like how much, but it's not like from the whole series run at the end of the day, and the demand isn't like everybody's looking for that book at the end of the day. But it would be malpractice on your part to sell it cheaply, because this is a book that when it does sell, does go for that high number. So you may have to wait to get that number, but you will get it.
All right. So I guess that's about it, unless you have anything else you want to cover.
What can I say? Time to put in some overtime hours.
All right. Spin a rack.